All right, welcome in, everybody, to another Sports Daily. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor, Jad Chambers producing, man in that IHOP hotline for us. Glad to be here with you on this Tuesday, a festive Tuesday, maybe a little extra festive this morning because we can all celebrate together. A big win by the Rangers over the Astros. Fantastic stuff. If you'd like to call in and talk about how amazing last night was, you can do that on the IHOP hotline. How about the new Nashville hot chicken and waffles? Golden brown Belgian waffle topped with 4 crispy chicken strips tossed in a spicy Nashville hot sauce. We'll have some giveaways for you as well, so keep that IHOP hotline handy. We'll give away some HTO iced tea and coffee. We'll give away some Wichita Thunder hockey tickets. A lot to get to today. Dan Israel, executive producer of the Chiefs Radio Network, joins us at the top of the next hour. Justin Ross is in some hot water. We probably will get more details on that, I would imagine, in the early parts of today, but we'll keep our eye apprised to that. We had Monday Night Football last night, and Tommy, we have Game 7 of the NLCS tonight after Game 7 of the ALCS last night. 2 Game 7s, right? That's all you can ask for. And the good guys won, Tommy, so it's good news for everyone.
I feel like it's going to be a relatively easy show for me today because I think you're going to basically do all the talking. I'm going to put my feet up. I'm going to let you talk about the Rangers for 2 hours. I might take a nap. It's going to be easy today.
I won't do that, even though I really want to do that. But I won't. It's so hard. Tommy's like sending me messages in the 4th inning. Oh, it's over. And I'm like, you got to stop. Like, like I am, pretty superstitious, and I've seen too many bad things happen. 2011 jumps to mind. Like, no, it is not over until somebody makes the final out, but it is over now.
You knew it was over. When it was 10-2, you knew it was over.
10-2 was like different than when you first started messaging me at, I think, 6-2 or something. And I'm like, you have not watched enough of this series to think that the Rangers are going to cruise through the bullpen here. But it was interesting because, look, and going into this, and I didn't know this before we were off the air yesterday, Bruce Bochy has never lost a Game 7. Dusty Baker's never won a Game 7. And I thought that, the Rangers, and it was really, I don't know if you were watching the game, but during the broadcast, Ken Rosenthal and who's the other guy? He's awesome. Tom Verducci are running the dugouts for the American League Championship Series. And once it got out to 10-2, then they sort of reported what they thought before the game. They're like, we didn't want to say this, and we don't want to alienate Astro fans, but I guess Verducci looked over at Rosenthal during batting practice and said the Rangers are going to blow them out today. Like, wow. That's just the vibe he got on it. But Bochy, I was listening to the pregame on my way home last night, and Eric Nadel, the great play-by-play guy for the Rangers, the best ever to me, like an idol, says, are you going to use Montgomery tonight? And I hadn't thought about that, and I don't know why I hadn't thought about that, because the Giants were notorious for doing that, and they beat my Rangers in a World Series, but they beat the Royals in Game 7. Why? Because they pulled Madison Bumgarner back in that game and just let him finish it. I was there. It was agonizing. That was such an agonizing game. And I'm like, oh my God, that's brilliant. Like, why wouldn't you use Jordan Montgomery in this game? Your bullpen's terrible. And then at that point, I was like, Scherzer just like, doesn't matter what Scherzer does. They're just going to be able to give him a quick hook one way or the other. And they did. He wasn't great, but he sort of battled, and he was overmatched in both of the games he pitched. He was not ready to take on a Houston lineup. Like, even as crafty and, he's just coming back from injury and all those things. Like, he was overpowered in this one too, but the offense had his back. And for a team, Tommy, that has like this ice cold blood in the veins type of thing, and they're all very level headed, Adolis Garcia is not that. Like, he's the one outlier to that. And my goodness, like, I hope everybody boos him for the rest of time, because that dude wore that on his shoulder like a chip the size of Houston. He got after it. I know it wasn't exciting like the other games in the series had been last night, because the Rangers got out to that big lead. But oh my goodness, what a series in general that was emotionally. And that's what you want, right? Like, you want that heat in there. You want that smoke.
Yeah. Is that the first time that the road team has won all 7 games in a series before?
I'm not sure because remember Houston lost all their home games. What World Series was that? I want to say that happened in a World Series recently with Houston, didn't it? Where they won all their road games or something
I
like
don't
that.
know. I know
Oh
that
man,
this
I'd have
season
to
they
look it up.
flashed the graphic on the screen that the Astros are not good at home. They were
They're
not good
not.
at home during
No,
the season. They
like
were much better on the road. Yeah.
Teams that have been as bad as they have at home don't reach this point ever. Like it's first time the worst home record a team that had reached that point ever had. But love baseball, love this time of year. It's fun. Indulge me for another, I don't know, about another 10 days here, and then you can be done with me for a while,
I
one
was
way or
thinking
the other.
about it. I was thinking about it last night, and don't get me wrong, I'm happy for you. I'm happy that they won. I mean, like, I think you're right. Like, the majority of people don't like the Astros, and so if the Rangers can come in and be the good guys and knock them out, okay, that's great. That being said, though, man, like if they win the World Series, the Rangers, like, you're going to be insufferable for a while. Like, you're just going to be absolutely insufferable.
Yeah, look, you're right. Because I've only waited, my entire life for it, and it's the team that I care the most about. I said this on the national thing this weekend because you have to like. There's this, and it's partly true, and you hear all of everybody say it, and I say this too all the time. People think that people in our line of business, like we hate certain teams. I have fun with that with this Rangers Astros things. I do love the Rangers, and I am totally a fan of that team. That's probably the last one though. Like I like the Cowboys. That's who I grew up with. That's who all my family likes. But I'm not losing sleep over the Cowboys. I'm not. Like it just really doesn't affect me that much. The Rangers do though, and I don't want to lose that one because that's the one that meant the most to me growing up. Right? It's nostalgia. It's what you bond with your dad over and like all of that kind of stuff. Like I don't want to let that one go. So while it is true, you sort of lose those allegiances, right? I don't want to lose that one. And that's the one that I have held on to and will hold on to because I'm not going to have an allegiance in college sports. I will wish for the success of Wichita State, Kansas State, and Kansas. That's what I want to happen more than any team in the country because that's who I cover. Like I want, our jobs are better when they're successful. I want the Chiefs to be successful. I want the Royals. I have become a huge, advocate for the Royals winning games because I saw what it did for the community in 2015 and 16. It was a blast. Like, of course I want that. And so, yeah, you do let go of a lot of that stuff when you do this for a living. You sort of have to, but I'm not going to let go of the Rangers. I don't want to. And I think sometimes people in our line of work overthink that a little bit. Like I would imagine there are listeners out there like having fun vicariously through me. Like unless you actively hate the Rangers, I don't, it's fine. And if you're a fan of the Astros, I'm sorry, man. Like that heat runs deep, and it's not even as much about the rivalries. I still bugs me that there are members of the cheaters on that team, front and center, and part of the the main pieces. Maybe when Altuve and Bregman are gone, that'll subside a little bit because I really do like Yordan Alvarez. That dude is one of the best hitters I've ever seen. I do not know how it reminds he reminds me of Vladimir Guerrero, except with an insane plate discipline. But the way he can hit balls at any part of the zone is just wild to me. But right now, when Altuve and Bregman are sitting there, and you've got 2017 Linger, I'm like, I'm not going to root for those guys. Like, get out of here.
I get it. I mean, I kid around when I say you're going to be insufferable. I mean, I was the same way, honestly, 2 years ago when the Braves won and they beat the Astros in the World Series. The only difference is that like I had gotten to experience it once when I was a kid. I was like 10 years old when the Braves won the World Series in '95. So I got to experience it as a kid. Then I got to experience it as an adult. And so, like that was all I talked about for days. And I think for you and I, one thing that we have in common is that our love for our baseball teams, I'm guessing like that's the first like fandom that you have. Like
Sure.
the Braves, that was the first fandom I had. It wasn't football, it wasn't basketball, it was baseball in the Atlanta Braves, and so like that was the first team that I was a diehard fan for. And, experiencing it as an adult is pretty special. And so, I mean, yeah, I'm right there with you. And I'll tell you what, like, especially if the Phillies win tonight in Game 7, I will be totally on your bandwagon with the Rangers to win the World Series and knock out the Phillies.
That Game 7's, I don't know who I'd rather play. I don't know who I'd rather play, honestly. You say that it's where I grow up. Your first fandom is as a Cowboys fan, right?
Sure.
Because it's an event every week. But the reason the Rangers become, or baseball, and this is why I love that we're the flagship station of the Royals, because this holds true for so many of our listeners. Like, the reason baseball, I think, has a different place for people is because the investment is different, right? Like, you can be certainly a bigger fan of your football team, and I think most people probably are. But man, baseball in the summertime, when it's there every single day, when it's easy to just sort of have it on, it gives you something to pay attention to. For us as kids, like, we didn't have a lot of money growing up, big family. Like, we can't go to a Cowboys game. Like, that was never attainable for us. But, once or twice as a kid, we were able to make the drive and go to a Rangers game. And they were terrible. But man, I remember that. And then as I got older, I made it a priority to get down there at least once a year. I think we had a stretch of like 7 or 8 straight opening days when we would just, like, 7 of us would get down and go stay at the crummy Days Inn down the street in one room and pile in and go, like all that kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff I don't want to let go of. So, the fandom there runs deep for me. I'm not going to let that go. I'm having fun with this. Hopefully, my kids can go to college and the Rangers win this financially, because I've got the bets on this deal. But
look, I think that there is something very deep and special about baseball fandom that, and I know like there are extremely passionate football fans, basketball fans, hockey fans, like you name it, like it's all there. And when you're a fan of a team, like that runs deep, and you're incredibly passionate and dedicated. But I remember I think it was 2010. I had never seen the Braves play in person. And I flew to Atlanta by myself. I went on a 5-day trip by myself to Atlanta, stayed in a hotel room by myself, went to like 3 or 4 games by myself, and met people that were sitting around me that like are still friends of mine today, that were on social media and we're messaging back and forth and we're following the game. Just people that I was sitting around or that rode the shuttle with me from the hotel to the game and back. Like, there's something special about that. And I think that, when you've got a season that lasts as long as baseball does, and it's the first kind of sign of springtime when pitchers and catchers report and spring training and all of that, like there's something special and kind of on a whole different level. It's a different kind of fandom, I think, for baseball. When you're a true fan of a team, it runs so deep, and it's such, I don't really even know how to explain it. It just is different to me.
Well, isn't the perfect retirement to like play golf in the morning and go to whatever it is, baseball, and like wind surge, wherever you are,
sure.
Like, just go out to the wind surge at night and enjoy the weather and have a beer and some peanuts or a hot dog and watch baseball. Like, it's just, it is Americana still.
Yeah.
Even now, baseball is Americana because it's lazy and you can do it every day. And it's, it doesn't command, until you get to this part of the season, it doesn't command your attention. You want to talk about insufferable. 24 or 25-year-old me, whatever year it was, in like 2010 and 11, when I was on the radio back home and they lost those, that was insufferable because I didn't have anything. Like, I didn't have anything else going on. Like, I was just a young guy with a job at that point. And like, that was it. Like, I was devastated. It's a little different now when you have so many coals in the fire, but there have been multiple times over the last week, and maybe I said this yesterday, where I sit there and think about how ridiculous it is that as an adult, with all the things going on and kids and everything, that this still like tugs at your emotions the way it does, and like legitimate stress and all that stuff. Like, man, that's why we love sports. The fact that it can still do it. And I know it's happening to my, 78-year-old dad too. He called me in the middle of the game, and we've been careful, right? We don't want to jinx anything. he sent me, my dad doesn't text. He just learned how to read a text like in the last 2 to 3 years, probably. And he almost never sends them. And when he does, it's like, it never really makes sense. I got a text at 10:30 last night that says, Tabs Dabadoo. TABSDABADO. That's it. Like that's the first, and that's the first text from my dad I've had that he has sent since last November 28th. So almost a full calendar year. The last message, the first message in a year basically was after the Rangers win, and it was that gibberish, whatever that was. I don't know what he was trying to say. But
the
like
Flintstones,
it's awesome.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he was trying to say yabba dabba doo. That could have been it.
Yeah.
But yeah, all right, here we go. I was like, of all the things that and my favorite piece of media that came out of last night was the cartwheel Adolis Garcia that I won't say on the air, but you can check it out. I retweeted it last night, cracking me up. But man, that was fun. Thank you for indulging me. We will switch gears. We'll probably talk a little bit about Game 7 of the NLCS if we have time. We will definitely talk about the Chiefs because we have Dan Israel coming up at the top of the next hour. We'll get into that. We'll get into rest of some of the headlines. Maybe a look back at some Monday Night Football. Told you it was going to be weird. It was just a weird week in the NFL. That happens, like where just everything is upside down. You could see last night coming a mile away. And there it is. The Niners lose. Man, and I think you've been with me on this, Tommy. What have we been saying about the Vikings? Just
desperate.
Just stick around. Like, I know everybody's ready to bail, but their defense is starting to play good. They get Jefferson back. That's not a team to take lightly. 869-1240 on the IHOP hotline. We'll come back. More Sports Daily right after this. Game 7 of the ALCS in the books. Game 7 of the NLCS tonight. Looking for more daily baseball coverage on the Odyssey app? Check out John Boy Media's Baseball Today, the hottest topics in baseball, Monday through Friday. Welcome back into Sports Daily, everybody. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor. All right, so we will get into the Chiefs and look ahead to the game this weekend, top of the next hour with Dan Israel. Something else, Tommy, that is on the radar right now with the Chiefs is Justin Ross, Chiefs receiver, arrested yesterday by the Johnson County Sheriff's Office. That's all we know, and that it was on a charge of criminal damage to property. And it looks like he's being held right. Okay, so I'm looking. There is a story out this morning. It's the first thing I've seen from anybody on this that gives any more clarification. It's the Shawnee Mission Post. So the Chiefs are aware of this. They're not commenting yet. According to the Shawnee Mission Post, it's greater than $1,000 and less than $25,000 on that criminal damage, but it'll be a felony charge. And then there was an asterisk on the arresting report of DV, which means domestic violence. Mm-hmm. It's not an assault charge, though, Tommy. So we're gonna have to sort this out. So the Shawnee Mission Post went back and listened to the radio traffic, and there were some officers sent to an apartment complex, and the woman told dispatchers. Oh, again, this is just radio traffic, and it means nothing. You have to be really careful with this stuff. Like we at the TV station, for instance, and in the news, like we wouldn't report on what we hear over scanners because it's, like it's not anything. It's literally just calls and people guessing at what might happen. But the caller of that, there was a woman who claimed to be and identified herself as Ross's girlfriend about 2:45 in the afternoon and told dispatchers that he tore up the house and broke her cell phone. So that's, again, according to the Shawnee Mission Post, who apparently went and listened to the radio traffic on that. We should get more details. I would think today, I would imagine everybody requested those details yesterday as soon as they heard. And then at some point today, they'll get the information and on a log. But so we got to kind of just sit back and see. I don't know what to make of this. There's no telling. It's certainly not good for Ross, who I would think is sort of clinging to a roster spot anyway. And we'll see what the repercussions are. But I think probably, Tommy, it's too early to get on the radio and make some definitive statement about anything other than, hey, this is happening, and it's potentially bad for Justin Ross.
It was originally fairly shocking when the report came out about his arrest because of what he was arrested on suspicion of. And because originally he was arrested on suspicion of criminal damage to property greater than $25,000. And that's a lot of money, and that's a felony. If you're charged with that's not what he was charged with, but that's what he was arrested on suspicion of originally.
It's an arresting charge. Yeah,
exactly. Now it looks like the actual charges are both misdemeanors, the domestic violence and the criminal damage charges. And that's according to the NBC affiliate in Kansas City. He's accused of physical contact with a person in a rude, insulting, or angry manner. And the court records also note that he's in a relationship with the alleged victim. It looks like he will be in court this afternoon, and then more than likely will be out of jail at that time. Really, that's all the details we have on it for right now. But regardless, you're right. It's not a good look. It's not a good situation at all. This is a guy that didn't play at all last year. The Chiefs signed as an undrafted free agent, was kind of the darling of off-season training camp and workouts, and the preseason has kind of broken in a little bit, gotten more snaps as the season has gone on. And I think some people, and I know we've talked about it before on this show, had kind of tabbed him as a guy that could be a breakout potential star wide receiver for this team with everything that we saw him do when he was at Clemson. This is not a good situation. Of course, we'll have to wait for, everything to play out with this, but, certainly shocking that all this came down.
Yeah. It needs some time now because these things do. And we'll sit back and we will see what is said today later. We'll know pretty soon, but we don't right now. So did want to get that out there though, as it happened yesterday in the afternoon. Timing of it was a little bit weird here. Just seeing that Chris Olave was arrested yesterday on suspicion of reckless driving, which means basically he was going way too fast. 70 in a 35. Yeah, that's not going to probably lead to anything. That's a really bad speeding ticket. Dusty Baker is reportedly mulling retirement after the Astros loss. Another headline that I saw last night. But Tommy, let's go to Monday Night Football. We could see this coming. We could see this coming. Like it just with the week that the that the NFL just had, with a couple of injuries or guys being dinged up for San Francisco, you could all, I mean, you really could. Like it just was, it felt like in a weird week, this was an opportunity for the Vikings. There's also a lot of the Vikings have been really unlucky this year. Everything has gone right for the for the Niners, and the NFL just typically does not let that happen. Like it is such an even league that those things tend to even out. And so Minnesota at home gets this win over San Francisco, although they tried to let San Francisco back in it, but they got it done. Now they're 3-4, and they got a whole bunch of division games still to go, Tommy. They get Green Bay 2 more times, Detroit 2 more times, Chicago 1 more time. And they're going to have an opportunity here to play themselves through. I think what's interesting about Minnesota is Christian McCaffrey played in that game, right? The only one that didn't play was Debo of the skill guys, and Minnesota held them to 17 points and 325 yards of offense. Brian Flores is there. That defense has a chance to get better, and if it does, and Justin Jefferson comes back, I love their offense.
Yeah, credit the Vikings defense for sure in that game. But on top of it, Brock Purdy looked pretty average, I think, last night. I mean, threw a couple of picks when it mattered the most. Late in the game, you've got opportunities to take the lead, to win the game even. And I know that Brock Purdy has been propped up over the first several weeks of the season as the future of the 49ers franchise. And he may very well be that, but he is the example, the shining example of a system quarterback. That's not a bad thing necessarily, but he's not. I've never looked at Brock Purdy and thought, man, that guy just looks extremely gifted, right? Like I've looked at him and I thought, okay, he can make some good throws. He can do some nice things, but he also, I mean, I watched him. I know you did as well when he was at Iowa State. There was never really a thought in my mind where I'm like, yeah, this guy is going to be, a phenomenal quarterback in the National Football League. I think he's been good so far for the most part this season. He's worked out really extremely well in Kyle Shanahan's system. But that being said, when the 49ers have needed him the most to lead game-winning drives down the field, it's what we, have talked about. We talked about it a lot last week with Justin Herbert. That's not what Brock Purdy has been able to do. Now, maybe at some point in his career, he'll be able to do that. And I mean, he's still young and growing and learning and going through those growing pains and all of that. But in the clutch moments, especially last night, he just wasn't able to get it done.
Look, number one, I think every quarterback in football is a system quarterback. They have to play within their system. They have a system. They have to be system quarterbacks.
And I don't mean that derogatory. I don't think that's
but a lot of the time that is meant derogatory. Like a guy's not really that good. He's just a system quarterback. How long did we hear that for Tom Brady? And then he went to Tampa and won another Super Bowl, right? Like everybody should strive to be a system quarterback. You want to play within the system of your offense. And he's a perfect fit is what he is. And it was a great job by San Francisco to evaluate him that way. Look, he had a bad game last night. He was 21 of 30 for 272 yards and threw a couple interceptions. His bad game is very, 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 very different than Zach Wilson's bad game. Right? That is a normal type bad game for a good quarterback. Said,
I get it. And I understand the stat line is there. I understand the yardage and all of that. I know that you were watching Game 7, and I totally understand why. The 2 picks that he threw,
they were bad. I saw the last one. It was bad.
They were bad interceptions. Yeah. Like they were Zach Wilson-esque interceptions, right? But so his overall stat line doesn't look like what Zach Wilson does.
But
those picks were Zach Wilson-esque.
The last one to me looked like like he was confused by the defense. So like I think that I think it was far more about Minnesota's ability to begin to play some defense last night, to me, than it was about, even with 2 losses in a row, some level of concern that I have for San Francisco. To me, that game was much more about Minnesota than it was the Niners, because Minnesota, and look, it was fluky, right? That Addison catch and strip away from the defender and everything, like, Minnesota there was some luck involved, but there's been a lot of bad luck involved for them this year too. And if they can get Justin Jefferson back and be in the mix, and this defense continue, because it wasn't fluky on the defensive side of the ball. There were some fluky plays on offense, but they're missing, the top playmaker arguably in football on that side of the ball. Minnesota's going to have a chance. I still think, and I've said this from the beginning of the season, I've put my money where my mouth is with them. I still think that they're going to be in the mix in this division late in the season. And if they can just get into the postseason, they're going to be an interesting team. Their problem was, can they defend? They have been so bad the last, couple of years, but they brought in Brian Flores. And man, I'm a Brian Flores guy. Like, that dude is a good defensive coach. And so, it was almost like it's what it and here's maybe why I've been higher on it, because it reminded me of what the Cowboys did with Dan Quinn. When the Cowboys were really struggling defensively, and then they brought in Dan Quinn, all of a sudden, a lot of those same players became good players. And so sometimes that scheme defensively, I mean, to some degree, we saw that happen with the Chiefs with Spagnuolo early on, right? They were really bad, and then he comes in and they kind of struggle through it early. But by the end of that season, man, they were buying in, and they were playing good defense, or at least much better defense. And if that happens for Minnesota, I do think they're going to be in the mix here. I just, like, they're clearly better than Chicago and Green Bay at this point. And the Lions, I can't wait for those head-to-head games between the Lions and the Packers. I'll just say that. I think they're going to be really fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, the Lions looked bad on Sunday.
One time. I mean, that's the first time that's happened to them.
But look, I think that it number one, it tells you that the Ravens have kind of woken up from their slumber a little bit and just, absolutely put the hammer down on the Lions. But number two, I think it shows you that the Lions are not invincible. They have a tremendous amount of talent, and they have the fan base. I mean, that fan base in Detroit, I mean, they're beleaguered, as we know. They're much maligned forever and ever and ever. And it's been really cool to follow the way that the fan base has embraced this particular team this season, and all the different stories about that, and standing ovations for, like 30 minutes after a game is done at Ford Field, and all of that. Like, that's all great. It's a beautiful storyline, all of that. But they went into Baltimore and they got trampled by the Ravens, just absolutely trampled. And all of a sudden, the Vikings, who everybody for the most part had written off and left for dead in the ditch, they're 2 games back. They're 2 games back in the NFC North. And, this is a playoff team from a year ago. It's a team that they know how to win close games. They didn't early this season, but they did all throughout last year. They're 2 games back now in this division against a Lions team that, now looks like, that you can, maybe what the kryptonite is a little bit, and a blueprint to be able to knock down Detroit a little bit. So I think it's going to be a fascinating divisional race. The Vikings have shown that they're not out of it at all. And we talked about it yesterday. The benefit for Minnesota playing in primetime on Monday Night Football is that they got a chance to see what happened to the Lions on Sunday. And they knew, hey, if we just win this game, all of a sudden we're right back in the divisional race.
Yeah, it is. And again, to last night, it was a weird week in the NFL. Weird week, right? Sometimes it happens. Like, next week will probably be very predictable, but because that's what the NFL does. But it does, as we see this play out, and we'll talk to Dan Israel about this, it does make you feel pretty good about the Chiefs, because they're consistent as any team in football this year. Now, have they been themselves offensively the whole way through? No, but they're consistent, right? They're not laying an egg at any point. They're consistently doing what they need to be doing. And on a couple occasions, they've looked really dominant. But I really think that the Chiefs are at the top of the power rankings.
Yeah. And you know what? There's not another team in the NFL that has won 6 in a row. Jacksonville's won 4 in a row.
Right.
They're next. But other than that, I mean, it's Kansas City. They dropped the opener by a point, and then all of a sudden they've rattled off 6 in a row.
And you know, there's probably, you could probably put other teams, like Philadelphia just got Byard. That's going to be a big addition for them and really help them out. But it's that the Chiefs still have so much ceiling to go, I think, offensively. That's why this thing looks like they're the team to beat again. And they always have been. We've never wavered from that. But it was uneasier than it has been in some years because, and look, the offense is far from where we want to see it because not every team's going to let Travis Kelce just continue to destroy them the way the Chargers did. They still are going to need others to step up. But I think they're getting there. We'll see what Dan Israel thinks top of the next hour. Let's give away some hockey tickets, Tommy. What have we got for folks?
Yeah, the Wichita Thunder back in action at home this Friday night in Trust Bank Arena, taking on the Cincinnati Cyclones at 7:05. We'll give you a family 4-pack of tickets to that game on Friday night.
Cincinnati Cyclones. All right, family 4-pack, Wichita Thunder hockey tickets on Friday night. First caller. Let's do the first caller on the IHOP hotline. Jad will get us a winner, 869-1240. We'll come back with more Sports Daily right after this. All right, congratulations to Mark for winning our tickets to see the Thunder on Friday night against Cincinnati. Family 4-pack. We'll give away some HTO in the next hour. Dan Israel coming up at the top of that hour to talk a little Kansas City Chiefs. NLCS Game 7 tonight. Tommy, it's been a really unpredictable series. Probably going to be pretty good. Good pitching matchup based on the way these guys have performed in the postseason. Is it Fat or Fott? I never know how to say his name. And then Ranger Suarez for the Phillies. But that's been a really good series, too. The Diamondbacks are pretty upstart, and they've had plenty of opportunities to go down in this series, and they have not. So that's when I say, like, I don't know who I'd rather see for the Rangers, because the Diamondbacks do have that, like, swag thing going. But, of course, the Phillies, like, do you ever want to see Schwarber, Harper, and Zach Wheeler in a World Series? I don't know that you do, but man, it's that NLCS has been good.
The Diamondbacks had the perfect strategy yesterday. I think I watched maybe the first 5 innings and then had other things to go and do. And so I walked away from the game. But I mean, it was very clear from the beginning that pitching wise, the goal was to work around Schwarber and Harper and then pitch to the guys behind them in the lineup, guys like Alec Boehm and JT Realmuto and some of these other guys that maybe are not as hot at the plate right now as Schwarber and Harper are. So they did that, and they did that pretty well. And then, Merrill Kelly was able to work around those guys and then still be able to get out of the jams with those runners on base. And then really they hit off of Aaron Nola better than I've seen a lot of teams this season. I mean, they did a really good job offensively against Aaron Nola, chased him from the game. So that was the perfect strategy, I think, for Arizona, and especially considering they did that inside Citizens Bank Park, which has been rocking this entire postseason. I mean, that's pretty impressive from them. And of course, it's going to be rocking again today in this crucial Game 7. But man, like, that was a really good way to start things off, at least as the series switched back to Philadelphia.
I have a buddy in Phoenix right now, and he was texting another group of Ranger fans, and he was like, "You guys can get down here. Like, tickets are cheap." I think he said tickets for Game 5 there were like $40. And who knows what they are in Philadelphia?
Do you think?
Who knows what
and that's a good
be in Dallas.
That's a good question. Do you think there's much of a national interest in a Rangers Diamondbacks World Series?
I don't know that there's ever much of a national interest in any World Series. I think we overthink that some. I think certainly the Phillies would have more national appeal than Arizona would. I think the Rangers probably have a little more. I mean, they have more national appeal than the Diamondbacks do. But what's interesting about that is I think the way that ALCS played out, the Rangers will probably draw a little bit more national interest because it has been so dramatic, and with Adolis Garcia and all of that stuff going into it. Rangers Phillies would probably pop in a World Series for sure, because there's all kinds of star power. I think people maybe from the outside don't realize, like, the Rangers last night was the first time really they've gotten much, if nothing, I mean, if anything at all, out of the top of their lineup. They've been doing what they've been doing, getting zilch in that series from Semien and Seager. Semien led the leagues in hit this year in hits. And Tommy, I saw this, I think it was earlier in that series, they pointed out in his last 162 games. So like Seager, because he was hurt a lot of this year. How many home runs do you think Corey Seager's hit in his last 100? Like, if you took his 162 games as a season,
50 some,
55.
Yeah.
I mean, that dude is incredible, but
when he's healthy, I mean, he's an MVP.
He missed
candidate.
40 games and is in the mix for an MVP. Yeah. And so, but he'd been doing nothing. And so if they get those guys going, then you've got something going for the Rangers. And this is what I love. A lot of fun.
I'm going to interrupt you here for a second. We started the segment talking about the Phillies and Diamondbacks Game 7. And here we are talking about the Rangers again. Like, and it's the way it's going to be. I get it. Yeah. I know you're gonna steer it back to the Rangers. I totally understand.
The Diamondbacks Phillies was on at 4 p.m. yesterday. I don't have much X's and O's I can give you on that when I'm literally in the studio trying to see it during commercial breaks on a screen the size of a cue card.
I mean, this tells you just the overall stranglehold that the Dodgers and the Astros have had on Major League Baseball for a while. This is the first World Series since 2016 that the Dodgers or Astros are not represented in. At least one of those teams has been in the World Series every single year since 2016. I mean, it's just been a stranglehold for both of those teams. And I think that there's been a little bit of fatigue built in. And I know that a lot of it comes back to the cheating scandal and all of that with the Astros, but I think that there's some fatigue, and it happens in sports when you have dynasties that are built and it's the same teams over and over again. And we saw it with Golden State in the NBA. We saw it with the Patriots. Now maybe the Chiefs in the NFL to an extent. I mean, that sort of thing is happening and has happened in Major League Baseball.
I mean, look, people will always make too much of oh, who's in there and the ratings and all that. Baseball isn't that. Baseball's not football. Baseball's not the reason people will watch the World Series that you can draw them in is star power and the fact that you can play a lot of the games with nothing else on, right? Games probably on Friday and Saturday won't be high viewed games. Monday probably won't be, but then the Tuesday, Wednesday of the next week. I mean, it just is what it is. So it doesn't really matter. If you're a baseball person, you'll probably tune in casually. If you're a fan of one of those teams, or if you hate one of those teams, you'll probably tune in to try and root against them, right? But it's just different. It's baseball. It's not the same as football. All right, we'll come back. Dan Israel, executive producer of the Chiefs Radio Network, joins us when we return. Talk a little Chiefs. Look ahead to this week. Next.
Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor. This is Sports Daily on Wichita's #1 sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Caught! Touchdown! Kansas City!
Hey, Chiefs Kingdom, we have you covered. Joining Sports Daily Live, executive producer of the Chiefs Radio Network, Dan Israel.
And welcome back into another hour of Sports Daily, everybody. Dan Israel, executive producer of the Chiefs Radio Network, does indeed join us now on that IHOP hotline. How about a new Nashville hot chicken and waffles, golden brown Belgian waffle top with 4 crispy chicken strips tossed in a spicy Nashville hot sauce? We appreciate the IHOP hotline. We appreciate Dan for spending a little bit of time with us. Dan, let's look back before we look forward. I got to my number one takeaway in that game was how dominating the Chiefs O-line was. Mahomes could do whatever he wanted back there.
Yeah, it makes such a difference, doesn't it? When he's got the time to survey, his vision improves and he makes really good decisions, and he ends up looking like that, throwing for 450-something yards.
Dan, what do you take away from the production and the connection that Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce had on Sunday? I mean, we talked about it yesterday on the program about how it just seemed like the Chargers were either unwilling or unable to adjust to Travis Kelce. And I don't know if it was the zone they were playing or exactly what it came down to, but I mean, Kelce feasted, Mahomes just carved them up. What do you take away from that?
You know, a couple of things. I think, first of all, we always tend to think of defensive players as trying to get a read on what an offensive player is going to do, right? Is he lined up, you know, are his shoulders slightly tilted? That means he's going to run in. What are the tendencies of the guy that I have to cover? What can I get pre-snap read? Defenses work really hard on that. Well, you know what? It's offenses too. And I really think Travis Kelce knows something about these Chargers. I just feel like I can't explain it any other way. I feel like, you know, much like the do it Kels from the Bills playoff game, he recognizes things. He reads defenses so well to begin with, and then he recognizes player tendencies. And so I think he's able to find open space because of that. And I don't think he's talking about it because he doesn't want to, you know, he doesn't want the players to change anything. You know, as long as you can kind of think it's just me, it's just what I do, it's Andy Reid, that's hard to defend. Whereas if I know I'm making a mistake that's causing this, then I can correct that. So that's my take on it, because it's so good. He is so good against the Chargers, and that Chargers defense is for real. You know, it's unbelievable. You mentioned the offensive line, and you're talking about between Khalil Mack and Bosa, those two alone are game-changing wrecking machine. And how our offensive line, you know, is able to fend them off and give Mahomes time, I don't know. But when it comes to time, if you give Kelce and Mahomes time, they're going to beat you each and every play, in my opinion.
And when you give them a zone like that, isn't Brandon Staley supposed to be this defensive guru? Like, I watched that, and I just cannot. I'm like, what are they doing? Like, of course, Chiefs. Of course, they're going to throw to Mahomes 13 times. I mean, to Kelce 13 times.
Yeah, there is something. I don't think. I think they. You know, well, look, I can't begin to speak for Staley, because he does some things as a coach that I haven't been able to understand, and he seems to be so incredibly stubborn with those ideas that he'll go down with the ship, and has several times. So I was somewhat impressed when he didn't go for it on 4th down there late in the game. Kind of showed me that maybe he is, you know, starting to weaken there, or at least starting to see daylight. But I also think he's stubborn with his defenses. And, you know, I would have adjusted. I would have tried to adjust. Look, a guy's beating you. He's beating you. He's beating you. You have to change. To continue to play him the same way all 4 quarters, what were you expecting? Were you expecting to tire out? Those guys get the more success they have, the more energy they obtain. So I really don't understand why they don't adjust faster. But it's not just a problem with the Chargers. We see this in multiple. we've even been, you know, subject to it at times, right? Where we just stick with the plan. there's a fine balance. I get it. You can't abandon your plan in the first quarter, but at some point midway through the third quarter and things aren't going your way or they haven't changed, you got to get more aggressive or less aggressive or change what you're doing to try to change the outcome. And I just didn't feel they did that. And Travis Kelce took advantage of it.
Dan Israel, executive producer, Chiefs Radio Network on the IHOP hotline. Dan, a question from one of our viewers watching on YouTube right now. Jason asks, was the lack of a running game against the Chargers problematic long-term, or was that just based on scheme? He was hoping for more production from the running backs. What do you think about that? It seemed like it was just a game plan thing, but the running game has slowed down a little bit.
Yeah, I do think it was a game plan. I think they thought it would be very difficult to run against the Chargers defensive line. They had a little bit of a little lack of success in the beginning. It probably didn't encourage them to continue to run, but you started to see as it became more and more important later in the game to try to burn the clock, they did kind of move to the running game, and they eventually kind of got it going. So I'm not so sure I'd be worried yet, but I think I said that to you guys a couple of weeks ago about the wide receiver room, and yeah, it's getting pretty deep in here.
Dan, there's one team in the NFL that has not allowed more than 21 points in any of their games played, and that's Kansas City. The defense has quietly, and I think a little bit under the radar, become one of the best defensive units in the NFL. 5 sacks on Sunday against the Chargers. At this point, I mean, where do you place the Chiefs defense? I mean, do you think that they are in the mix for maybe the best defense in the NFL right now?
Boy, it sure feels like it. I mean, I get to see the Chiefs play every week, and certainly can't watch every game in the NFL every week like I do the Chiefs. But when I look at the way the Chiefs are playing and the way they're playing defense in particular, and I think back to how tough it gets late in the postseason, teams are just completely different. When you play a team in the AFC Championship, you're not going to face a team like that maybe more than once or twice a year. And for the Chiefs, because we've finished on top so many times, I think we probably do that more than other teams do. So I think it's interesting about the Chiefs defense. One of the things, you can get statistically to number one in a variety of categories, correct? But the Chiefs are doing a very balanced kind of approach to the way they're playing defense. It's not all spying. It's not all blitzing. It's not all rushing the passer. It's very balanced. And I feel like the depth that they have allows them to go late in games and still play strong. It seems like they kind of play rope-a-dope in the first half, doesn't it? Where they just kind of watch, they sit back, they bend, they don't break, and then they just crush you in the second half. Chargers went 19 minutes without a first down, not without a score. They went 19 consecutive game minutes without a first down. That to me is an absolutely just championship caliber defense. And if they can continue to play good teams, because I consider the Chargers a good team. I don't think they're a great team. I don't think they're the Bills. I don't think the Bills are the Bills right now. But I feel like they can play. You can bring your Justin Jeffersons. You can bring your Keenan Allens. You can bring your Mosterts, and you can bring your Eckleys and all this, and they can defend all of it. They don't have to choose. Oh, we're really good against the run, but please don't have an arm on your quarterback, because if he can throw over us, he can beat us. And they're not the opposite. It's not all coverage. It's not all the secondary buying time up front. I just feel like they're so complete. And guys, I got to tell you, getting Amenahu back, or getting him out on the field, I guess I should say, for the regular season for the first time, you got to see this guy. That's him after not being involved in 4 games. Or whatever, 6-game suspension. That's him not in football shape. That's him without his rhythm. What's he going to be like when he gets on a roll, man? I think it's going to be an incredibly fun defense to watch. And I know fans don't like it as much as maybe offense, but look at this defense. I do believe they're top 2-3.
I think Chiefs fans like it. Nick Bolton's out though, Dan, and that's going to be a fact. I know Tranquil's been good, but man, when they've had those two out there together, it has been a little different. That Bolton loss is going to be, and I know he's been hurt already this year, but he's been really good this year, and that's going to sting a little bit.
It does, and I think, the thing about Bolton, if you've been around, look, Drew's I think got maybe 3% body fat. He is a very fit individual, but he's also not quite the size of Nick. Nick is a little bit more like an oak tree trunk. He just is. I just don't think you can run through Nick Bolton. And while I'm really happy with the job that Tranquil's been doing, I don't think you can lose any kind of Pro Bowl caliber talent and not miss it to some degree, right? Now, whether that makes them susceptible to the run because Bolton's not out there, I don't think it's going to be that large a difference. It's not going to change or alter the personality of the defense, but I don't think you can not miss a guy like Nick Bolton. He brings energy to the team. He is the quarterback, which, Tranquil's been holding the green dot fairly well, but there's a lot to Nick Bolton. And, there was a reason that he rose so quickly. There are game-changing moments we can all recall with Nick Bolton, and not having him on the field is definitely, not what Chiefs fans want. But you want him to get whole. I was disappointed it was going to be surgery because I kind of thought like with the dislocation they could just wrap it up, kind of club his arm, and he'd be fine. But, with the surgery, it's obviously a more intense injury. And so, 6 weeks to 2 months, it's going to be tough.
What was your takeaway on the first game back for McCole Hardman? I know that he was used pretty extensively in special teams and obviously had that great punt return late in the game. Do you anticipate that, the longer that he's back with the team, the more we'll see him having more offensive snaps, really being more involved in the passing game? What was your overall takeaway from his first game back?
Yeah, I think so. I think you will see more. I will say pleasantly surprised. At first, I didn't think they were, they put him on, expected him to do returning, and then he just kept fair catching. At one point in the game, I think we got into a break, and I asked Danon Hughes, who played special teams for the Chiefs for 6 years, I said, Danon, why is he just fair catching everything? Are none of these returnable? And he said, no, they're not. And so I thought, okay, all right, well, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt because Danon obviously played. He knows what he's talking about. I'm a radio guy, so I'm going to defer to him. And then the next play, the very next punt, he has that incredible run back, and it just kind of sparked everybody into, let's go. And I there were flashes of 2018 in there, or of previous years in there, and so I feel like having that speed. I think Tobe said it first. He arrived back in Kansas City last Thursday, and he immediately made the team faster. He's the fastest guy on the team, but he got here on Thursday. How much can you do with a guy with a day and a half? I realize he's going to understand the vernacular of plays. How the plays are called, how they're labeled, and things like that, because he played in this offense so much. But the plays are different. Like, it takes us a while at camp to kind of relearn, okay, here's what they're doing now. This is they've altered this play and it's become that. He's been immersed in the Jets offense for the past 6 months. So I felt like he did an incredible job of even being productive out there. I was pleasantly surprised.
All right, Dan, we've delayed it as long as we could, looking ahead to the Broncos. I know they won against the Packers. I don't see that path for them. It's strange because they have been bad, but they do have talented players. We saw last week in the NFL how easy it is for things to go upside down on people. But when you get into this one, and just like the way that the Chiefs have dominated this series for a long time now, does that make the chance for a letdown for the Chiefs lessen, do you think? Like, it just doesn't feel like that's going to be the time the Chiefs are caught off guard.
Well, the probabilities and statistics guy in me says at some point you flip a coin, it can't keep landing heads, right?
Right.
There has to be something eventually that we're going to slip and fall on this. But it's hard to imagine because I just don't feel like let's set the premise, of course, of the NFL. The parity in the NFL is incredible. And so you have the margin between a bad team and a good team is very narrow. The thing I would say about that is when you separate the top 5 teams from the bottom 5 teams, or even if you want to say top 3 teams from the bottom 3 teams, that margin is a little more significant. I think you're dealing with the spectrum here. And I don't feel like Denver is, while they can win a game, I don't think they can win a game against the Chiefs. I just feel like, I know it's close, and I know we make it seem like that, but the eye test, they don't look to have the same substance that we do. With all of that said, they are very, players are so proud. And you saw their defense come alive, man. And if they play really, really good, if the Broncos, I'm speaking of, play really, really good defense, it will make it harder to continue this streak, especially in Denver, Colorado. However, having said that, with the defense the way we're playing, I just feel like the Chiefs defense, if Russell Wilson can move the ball down on the Chiefs defense, they've figured something out because nobody else has been able to do it like that. And so don't expect Russell Wilson to come out and score more than 21 when they're only giving up an average of 16, right? So I feel like it would be very difficult for the Broncos to upset the Chiefs, and it would be an upset. But sooner or later, as fans, we have to accept sooner or later this streak is going to end. I mean, we are 39-5 in our division since 2016. I can count on one hand the number of losses in our division since 2016. That's a stunning statistic to me. We are living in like unprecedented special times. Where's the glass slipper, man? It's got to fit at this point.
So I wonder, Dan, obviously these two teams just matched up just not that long ago, right? And so when you've got a situation where it's basically just one game week between two matchups between divisional opponents, how much can the Chiefs take away from what happened in Arrowhead 2 weeks ago against the Broncos, knowing that they're going to be facing them again just, a couple of short weeks later?
Yeah, it's interesting, the schematic or the recipe for the schematic of a football plan, a game plan, let's say. You take, in the off season, coach works on teams that are in our division, and he says, okay, I know this guy, I know that guy, I know his tendencies, I know this guy's tendencies, but he doesn't know the scheme that the team is going to play in. So there's very much and I think this is true with most, if not all teams, there's very much a what are they doing right now philosophy. What have they done the last 3 games? I think most coaches go back 3 or 4 games. I tried to do that. It's too time consuming for me as a broadcaster. But I do feel like the most recent games tell you more than maybe what they were doing in the off season, or specifically maybe what they look like on paper. I mean, they anoint the Chargers and Cowboys every year in the Super Bowl on paper, and maybe on paper it should happen, but we don't play them on paper. So I feel like when they put the game plan together, the fact they know the Broncos so well, they're going to exploit tendencies, and they're going to have a game plan in the off season where they say, okay, when they come to Arrowhead, we're going to apply pressure here. When we go to Denver, we're going to apply pressure there. Those are the general concepts they might come up with in the off season. But during this week, the week prior to playing them, they will merge those into what they've seen from the tendencies of not only the last couple of games they've played. They'll take a look at maybe the big losses, and they'll take a look at big wins to see how did Denver win? How did they lose? And so they'll apply those with their precepts from the off season, and they'll merge all of that together. That goes on Sunday, end of Sunday after the game, Monday, and then Tuesday they basically start dealing the cards out to the players to kind of immerse them in what's going to happen. And then practice. Wednesday is about executing, right? Once you come up with a game plan, you got to get it out through a player. So that becomes a whole different coaching subset.
And how do the coaches now on Denver's side deal with trying to guess whether Taylor Swift will be at the game? Because clearly Travis Kelce's unstoppable when she is.
I was in a press conference last week when Coach Reed said she can hang around all she wants. I thought my jaw was going to drop. I also looked at the head of our team security who did not agree with that statement whatsoever. Yeah, I do feel like one of the things for Denver at this point has got to be, all right, we've tried this, we've tried that. What now? Yeah. Maybe they should appeal to Taylor. I don't know.
I got to ask you, Dan, really quick.
She's there, 87's going wild. I'm just going to say.
Really quick. I know that you guys have had, dignitaries like Mike Tirico, and last week you had Jim Nantz on the pregame show. When are you getting Taylor on the show?
Yeah. I told my assistant producer, I said, you want a Hall of Fame go get me Taylor. And he goes, what are you going to talk to her about? And I said, I don't know. You get me Taylor. We'll figure it out. But wasn't Jim Nantz great? Jim Nantz, so gracious awesome with his time. He sat with us. I didn't think we were going to get through. We had to actually scratch a segment to make room because I figured we'd have 4 or 5 minutes with him. He was just like we were sitting out on the back porch of a patio somewhere, smoking a cigar and drinking wine. I think he would have hung around to the kickoff if we could have all done that. But what a great guy he is. It was really nice for him. Kevin Harlan is going to join us this week, hopefully in Denver. So that'll be fun too. It's always good to see Kevin.
Yeah, and he's got such a good grasp of all of it. I love Kevin Harlan too, and Jim Nantz is a legend. So that gives us the tease right there of what you guys are going to have on this week, Dan. Maybe Harlan, and these games can get wacky. They can get wacky out there in the NFL.
You're absolutely right. I think the one thing you can rest assured for with these games is buckle up, because you really don't. It's going to take all 4 quarters. The Chiefs haven't started fast yet this year. I think maybe except maybe it was the Bears or somebody, but it's going to take all 4 quarters here to win this. But the Chiefs should win this, and so I expect them to be prepared for the Denver Broncos, and it should be at least a very interesting, entertaining game, if nothing else.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Dan, you guys will have the call. The game starts. It's the late afternoon window again. So we'll look for all our pregame coverage over on KNSS on the Chiefs Radio Network. Have a good call, safe travels, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a great week. Go Chiefs.
There goes Dan Israel, executive producer of the Chiefs Radio Network. Always appreciate those visits. And yeah, you get Taylor Swift on a Chiefs pregame and you've set your career. We'll put it that way. All right, let's give away some HTO on the way out here, Tommy. We'll do some iced tea, which is available for you. 25 flavors, including the fall offerings, apple pie, and peach cobbler. You can get those at Wichita East, Wichita West, or in Derby. And we'll give away also a brew house offering, which is all the great coffee, the iced coffees that people are going nuts for. Those are available at Wichita's East location and also in Derby. Second caller during the break will get a pair of those, one of each, iced tea and brew house. We'll be back with more Sports Daily right after this. 869-1240. Good luck. Start of the NBA season tonight coming. Welcome back to Sports Daily. Jake Albracht, Tommy Castor. You got the start of the NBA season, no football, but you've also got an NLCS Game 7. Looking for more daily baseball coverage on the Odyssey app. Check out John Boy Media's Baseball Today, the hottest topics in baseball, Monday through Friday. So a lot going on. No football today. Congratulations, by the way, to Steve for winning some HTO iced tea and brew house coffee. Tommy, what do you think of this weather? We got some good rain outside.
Yeah, we do. It's nice. It's good to have that for once, and it seems like months and months and months. I know you're dealing with this. I'm dealing with it too. It's like the whiplash and the weather. Like my allergies are going crazy. I'm like coughing and sneezing and all of that.
I get bad allergies here, but they're not as bad in the fall as they are in the springtime. And I'm doing all right with that. The listeners may or may not be able to tell. There are times it just happened to me where I catch, like, I feel like I might have pneumonia right now. Like I cannot, I feel fine and great, but I cannot, like every time I take a deep breath, it like catches and makes me want to cough. And I'm going to tell you, as somebody who does this for a living, taking deep breaths is a big part of what I do, and it catches me. And I'm like, gosh, dang it. Get out of here.
This, may be too personal of a question. Have you had COVID?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
So I had it when it wasn't cool to get it the first time, right? Like when everything was dying off and everybody was fine, I got it then and didn't really know I had it. And then this same thing happened for, it felt like 6 or 8 weeks. So I'm guessing that, yes, I have, and this is that again. So that's probably what it is. And, hopefully everybody's able to stay healthy out there. But I'm guessing that's what I'm dealing with here.
Yeah, I had it. I got it. But ever since that time, anytime I just get a cold now, the cough lasts forever. Like I can't kick it. It's like weeks and weeks and weeks. And, my wife will be like, man, you've been coughing for weeks. I'm like, I know. And I never used to do that. Then I got COVID. And now every time I get a cold, I'm just coughing like crazy.
Does your wife get really annoyed with you when you cough? Because
yes.
I get like, it's like I'm being lectured for coughing. And I'm like, you think I like doing this? Like, you think this is fun for me?
So this might actually paint my wife in a bad light, but I'm gonna say it anyway. So when I had COVID, I brought it home. Like I was the first one in the household to get it. And our now 2.5-year-old was like, I don't know, 7 months old or 8 months old. So I had to quarantine in the basement. And my wife was mad at me for bringing it home. And her words to me, so keep in mind, I'm running like 103-degree fever. I've got the body aches and the chills. I'm miserable. And I'm headed down to the basement to quarantine and get away from them. My wife looked at me and she goes, enjoy your vacation. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me right now. This is the worst I've felt in years. This is not a vacation. But of course, I'm leaving her with our baby, to take care of by herself. So anyway,
that's not just a your wife thing. That's just a general
enjoy your
married
vacation.
Yeah, I know exactly how that goes. So this is not really related. So all this came up because of the weather and because I keep not catching my breath. I went for a walk this way. I was like, oh, it's drizzling. I'm going to get out and walk before the rain. I like to walk, between kids getting on the bus and the radio. I try to it's like the only kind of exercise of any kind. Again, it's not even that real of exercise. It's just nice. So I'm walking today on the same path I always go, and I feel something on my neck, and I grab at it like it would be a bug. And I grab and kind of flick it, and I look, and it's this massive spider.
Oh God.
So I joked on social media that I was a long way from home without a clean pair of underwear. Like when I saw that it was a big old spider. I think it was a wolf spider. And I'm not scared of spiders. I don't like spiders, but I'm not scared of them. And I'm telling you, are they falling out of the sky now? Like what is that? Like, how does that happen? I got in my car a couple of weeks ago coming home from the airport. Same thing. All of a sudden, I get in the car, start it, spider on my neck. And I'm like, what? Like, what is happening here? Like, I'm not scared of spiders, but there's a line here that we're going to draw on what's acceptable social behavior for those nasty things and what's not. And that's not okay. Like, can we stop appearing out of nowhere and getting on my neck?
Did you read the stat that one time? I know it was like in vogue for a while. Like everybody was sharing it on social media. The number of spiders you eat every year, like in your sleep.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't know about that. Like, I don't care. And again, I understand the dynamics of size. Like, okay, so my wife, if she sees a spider, she might burn the house down. Like what has happened to me now twice in a couple of weeks would have been the death of my wife. She would not be alive. She would have had a heart attack. Or as she joked this morning, when I, of course, get a super close-up picture of the spider just to mess with her and tell her the story, she was like, oh, you would have been embarrassed. I would have been running home naked. Like, all my clothes gone. Like, nope, not going to do that. Because I'm sure that spider had, lived in the little jacket I was wearing and just came out or whatever. So I don't have that sort of fear from spiders. Like, when we first start dating and I go over to her apartment and I'm like, where are you? And she's on top of her couch with a can of, like bug spray that shoots like lasers, just with it, on standby, watching. She's like, I can't talk to you. I need you to come kill this spider. I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, I can't look at you. I've got to, I don't want it to get out of my sight. I got to know where it is all the time. And like a flamethrower that she was going to kill this spider with. And of course you walk over and you're like, all right. You just, you step on it, but I can't have them falling out of the sky onto me. That I'm not okay with. Can we come up with our acceptable, I get it. Spiders. I love garden spiders. I hate mosquitoes more than I hate spiders. And like, I appreciate what some spiders do, not what others do, like the recluses and all that stuff. But for spiders that, like, you're going to eat bugs, like, okay, we can have some sort of agreement here where you can do your thing and eat the other bugs and kind of stay in your own space. If we don't know about you, if we can't see you, you're not hurting anything. But what I can't have you do is falling out of the sky onto me when I'm walking around like that. I can't have that. And if we're going to make that a part of spider behavior, then I am going to go nuclear on spiders and just like kill them all. Like we're not going to do that. We have to draw lines in this society. We're trying to live in a society here. Isn't that what Costanza said? Like we have rules on this kind of stuff. That was not okay.
I don't have any issue with spiders or bugs. Like they don't bother me. I can do snakes. Like that doesn't bother me at all.
No, absolutely.
Like
not.
I can handle all of that. I will tell you the one thing that will get me up on a table is a mouse. Mice,
what?
Rats. Oh my God.
Mouse?
Because they're vermin. They're disease-riddled vermin that, like, if there's a rat that runs by, like I saw a mouse one time in my apartment.
Are cute though.
No, they're not. I mean, they will gnaw your face off.
No, they won't.
I'm going to jump up on the tallest thing I possibly can. I might squeal like a little girl. There was one time in my very first house I bought, there was a wood pile that I needed to get rid of before I sold the house and moved away. And so moving the wood and all of that, and there's a nest of baby mice, and they ran out from underneath the wood pile across my feet. And I was gagging. I was in the corner of the yard gagging. I can't do furry vermin.
Really? Mice are, man, they're cute. Like they're fun. They make good pets. And like, they don't even like rats are kind of gross looking, but rats are also kind of cool and really smart. And like when we were in New York City last summer and I was with my wife who'd never been there, and it was like late night after the bars walking home. I was like, hey, look at all these rats. Like they're just right. Because we don't really have rats, right? We have mice. Yeah. Mice don't bother me at all. Like at all. Like, I mean, they're annoying. I don't want their poop everywhere. I don't want them in my house, but they're cute. Like they're not, so I grew up in the country. I call it the farm. We didn't farm. We ran cattle, and we had like grain elevators. And you want to see some mice, Tommy, this would have been your worst nightmare then. Like we would set up mice traps and there'd be 40, 50 mice in there.
Oh,
so that also is the land of rattlesnakes. And you said you don't mind snakes. There is like, for me, and I'm like with spiders and circle of life. Like I don't have snakes can all die. Like they can all just die. We don't need them. That we'll be just fine without them. Like snakes and mosquitoes. Like, no, thank you. Rattlesnakes. I grew up, you had to look under everything. There's a reason you wear cowboy boots, right? Rattlesnakes were everywhere and I hate them. And one of my kids who's the instigator knows it, and she likes to mess with me with snakes. And so like for me, if I see a snake, maybe not a garden snake, but most of the time, and I'm sorry, animal lovers, like you can get mad at me all you want, but I literally grew up with survival of the fittest. Like it was the rattlesnake or it was me. And so if I see a snake, I immediately want to kill it and chop its head off. Yeah. And it like blood boils and it's like wartime, right? Like it's like, all right, we're going to kill this snake. Like this snake is going to die.
I'm not saying I like snakes. I'm just saying I don't have a problem with killing them. Like I'm not going to like squeal and run away. Like I'll grab a shovel, I'll chop its head off. Like I don't have an issue with it. I don't have a problem with like stepping on spiders.
I'm going to war with a snake.
This might actually be a little bit too graphic, but I'm going to tell it anyway. So when I was a teenager, my family, we built a new house out in the country. And so there was a basement. Of course, you're going to probably be dealing with mice out in the country in a new house. And so we set up a bunch of like the glue traps, right? Yeah. For the mice. And I remember, I like distinctly remember coming home. My bedroom was in the basement. And I remember coming home one day and there was a mouse that had chewed its legs off and was scooting on and it was like a horror movie. And I think about that all the time. Like when I see a mouse, I think of that one mouse that had chewed its legs off and was scooting along the carpet in our basement. And I can't do it. I cannot do mice.
Hey, Tommy.
I'm good with mice.
Yeah.
Yes, Chad.
I just got to say this, Tommy. since they're basically mice, but just with wings, what about bats?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like that's how people. I mean, people get bit, and that's how they become like
vampires.
Exactly. I can't do it.
We had bats in our dorm room in college on the balcony, and I had a roommate that would go out there and smoke all the time, and like so it would be this game of like, are you going to get swooped on by bats tonight? Like it was like that was intense. I'm not afraid of bats because I don't really see them, but yeah, I mean. Mice, I got no problem with I don't want them because they can be a nuisance, but they're kind of cute little furry things. Like I've never understood that.
We will not be a family that has gerbils or hamsters or ferrets or
what about like
guinea pigs,
a baby bunny?
Like, I mean, that's different. That's not vermin.
Not
that's
different.
A bunny is significant.
I mean, a bunny and a gerbil. I mean, like a bunny and a gerbil.
Those two things are completely different. Completely different. Like I'm more okay with a bunny, like they're sweet and cute and whatever, than I am with like a disease-ridden.
Are you okay with like a duck? Like, are you good with,
Sure.
I'm just trying to like make my way down the list of adorable things that exist in nature. I come from the place, like you're afraid of, like Tommy, I grew up when rattlesnakes and tarantulas. Have you ever seen like the migration of a tarantula?
Yeah.
Where they all just like run across the road? It's terrifying. And scorpions. Like, can we talk about scorpions? Like, why are those a thing? Why is a scorpion a thing? Like, what purpose is a scorpion serving?
I know you grew up in a different world. I mean, the Texas Panhandle, like it's desolate, and you've got scorpions and tarantulas.
You've got the survivors,
and rattlesnakes, and
you don't want a piece of those survivors,
right? Armadillos and. I mean, they're crazy out there.
Have you ever, this is a total, bear with us. Have you ever seen, I want you to look up, Tommy, and do a Google search right now of a vinegaroon, spelled just like you'd think, vinegar, okay. OON. Look that up right now. This is a thing too.
Oh, dear God, no.
Yeah. Like,
wow.
So I like, we would get our old TV station was out.
It sprays acid,
dude. I'm telling you. So we had our station then was in the country. So like, imagine, like you got to imagine. So when I say like scorpions and rattlesnakes, it's like a desert landscape is where we were. So our old station was out in the middle of nowhere. And when I worked the morning shift, you'd come in and there would be some critters out there, right? Because they hadn't all gone into hiding for the day. And there was a time when I came in and I saw one of these things. And again, I'm usually kind of okay with bugs. Oh, the other thing, we have a lot of centipedes, like another really disgusting thing. But this vinegaroon, like look that up, folks. Like check it out. Spell it just like that. Stuff of nightmares. I don't even know what it is. It's got like a stinger looking thing and pinchers, and it sprays acid.
Why do people live there? I don't understand. Like you've got all these different things that are like terrifying and will kill you. It sounds like you basically grew up in like the outback.
Yeah, we did. I mean, rattlesnakes. We have to teach our kids about them. Like I had to learn. Like if you lift something up out there, there is a better than 50% chance that there's a rattlesnake under there. I'll leave you with this. So we had like we bought some land next to ours, and it had like a trash pile, like a place where you could put trash. And we had like an abnormal amount of rattlesnakes that year. And I'm not kidding. Underneath that, under some ground, lifted like a big rock or something, there was a rattlesnake den. Do you know that scene out of Indiana Jones where he like there's that pit? That's what it looked like in there. And like I was like, I don't know, a middle school, and I go get my 410 shotgun and I just start firing like down in that hole. And of course it doesn't do anything. Nightmare stuff. I hate snakes. Hate them. Don't like those vinegaroons either. Check those out. Let us know what you think on the video stream. You can check that out and leave your comments. Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. That was a total curveball that came and started with flying spiders, apparently, that like to land on my head. We'll come back. More Sports Daily right after this. Welcome back in, everybody. Sports Daily. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor with you on this rainy Tuesday. It is nice to see it out there. It's raining pretty good right now, and yeah, we need it. We need it badly. Need it badly. Mike says that we got to leave. Man, we got to leave things to their own accords. Meaning to Mike, I love you and I agree with you to some degree. What's the point of a mosquito? Like, I mean, like it's a mosquito. I get snakes. I don't like them, but I get them. They help Tommy with his mouse problem. But like, what's the point of a mosquito, right? Like we could do okay without mosquitoes.
Guys,
I guess something needs to eat a mosquito. I suppose.
Guys, I got to say that entire last segment had me thinking about the movie The Replacements, where they were talking about fears in the locker room. They kept talking about, what fears, how do you overcome them? And instead of talking about football, I don't like spiders. I don't like snakes.
What's yours, Jad? Like, what's the unreasonable thing that you're afraid of?
Crowds.
Yeah.
I'm not
people.
Humans. Just people.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. I kind of, if there's an enclosed space with a lot of people, that does sort of get me. However, I got to say this. I also seek that out a lot because I'm an adrenaline junkie. And so I like being afraid.
It gets your juices. Yeah, I know. I gotcha. That's interesting. Do you have the same affliction that, and I thought this was just me, but I'm learning it's most guys my age, which makes me feel better. When you get into that setting and you can't hear a thing, like you can hear it, but you can't decipher it. Like if I get into those and you're talking to me, like if you come up and talk to me, please forgive me if I don't have a clue what you're saying, because when I get into those spaces, like I can't decipher noise one from the other. It's just all noise to me.
No, that doesn't happen to me, but
that's
I have a hard time with small talk, and not that I'm bad at it. I just have to work at it. And so I've got like my same, 4 or 5 go-to phrases. And usually it's the same ones to kind of end the conversation and move on.
Hey, so fella.
If I talk to any of you, if you ever come up and talk to me, like I'll be very cordial. We'll have a good conversation, but I'll probably at some point say, well, it was good seeing you, and I might say it like 4 or 5 times, and I'm trying to move on. And it's no offense. It's just, small talk. The crowds don't get me, but the small talk I really have to work at.
Yeah, no, neither of those bother me. I love small talk. I love if I go in and like work in the store for my wife and I'm up at the front just talking to people. Like I would love to be, and maybe this is 100% of the opposite of what you just said. Like I would love when I retire to be a daytime bartender, like lunch hour bartender somewhere where you've got regulars and people just come by and you could just chat it up. Like airport bartender would even be fun during the day. Like whatever it is.
I thought you were going to say Walmart greeter, because that's kind of along those same lines.
Although, I guess when you got to hit a next like evolution of retirement to get up there. But yeah, that wouldn't be so bad. I get it. We'll just, we've all got it. Chad, that's interesting because I know you like to go to events. I never would have guessed that. All right. 869-1240. We'll come back. We'll tell you what's on tap today as we've had a little fun. What are you guys afraid of? What's unreasonable? Tommy's is mice, which is hilarious to me. It's like the elephants that are afraid of mice. Like just they're so cute and cuddly. Like what would make you? But spiders are the same way. Like we're so large, like we can just step on them. But why do they scare us so bad? What are you afraid of? You can leave us your comments there. I'm a chicken by nature, by the way. I'm a scaredy cat of things. So, I'm with you on a lot of that stuff. All right, we'll come back. We'll tell you what's on tap next.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop, opt out.
Binges, blackouts, regret, shame, trying and failing, to drink less or quit. Hi, I'm Jonathan, founder of OreHealth. I know how scary drinking too much can be because I struggled with alcohol misuse for most of my adult life. But I also know that it is possible to drink less or quit. And medication can help. Naltrexone is a safe, effective medication that makes it easier to cut back or quit drinking, so you don't have to rely on willpower alone. I started OreHealth to make access to Naltrexone convenient and private, to help people like me regain control over alcohol.
If you're ready to stop drinking or just drink less, text CLEAN to 323232 to get a secure link to OreHealth's private online assessment. Our licensed medical professionals will evaluate your assessment, and if medication is right for you, prescribe it online. We'll deliver your prescription right to your door. No doctor's office visits required. Text the word CLEAN to 323232 to get started today. That's CLEAN to 323232.
I'm attorney John Rapp. At Hinkle Law Firm, we defend white-collar investigations. With a former Kansas Assistant Attorney General and years of experience defending clients, we stand ready and willing to help you. If you have been contacted by law enforcement, please call me at 316-267-0000. 2000.
McCurdy Real Estate and Auction is proud to present our November 2nd multi-property live stream auction event with online-only bidding. The auction features 36 properties and will take place on McCurdy.com at 5:30 p.m. Thursday, November 2nd. Our multi-property auctions provide a unique opportunity to bid on single-family homes, twin homes, and rental investment properties. Make sure to visit the open house where all properties will be open to view and tour this Sunday, October 29th from 1 to 5 p.m. For details and pictures of all 36 properties, visit McCurdy.com, where our favorite word is sold.
96,000.
Every morning, there's a difficult decision to make. Which Spangles breakfast bowl are you going to pick? There's the sausage bowl or the bacon bowl, both with country-style gravy, or the fiesta bowl with salsa, cheese, and jalapenos, or the pancake bowl with sausage. Pick up a breakfast bowl when you're on the go. Spangles, where breakfast just tastes better.
Spangles tastiness in 4 different varieties. Forget cold cereal and start your day hot and fresh with a Spangles breakfast bowl.
Spangles, it just tastes better.
If you crave an extra special great tasting margarita, stop by Spangles for our extra special mango margarita. Bold tequila with the sweet and wild flavor of mango brings you a great tasting margarita with the perfect combination for a fruity and tropical drink. Hurry in to try the new Spangles Mango Margarita, only here for a limited time. Spangles, where cocktails just taste better. Spangles reminds you to please drink responsibly.
Spangles, it just tastes better.
There's never been a better time to save big on brand name furniture and mattresses than right now during Crazy J's huge $1 million inventory liquidation sale. Living room, dining room, and bedroom groups, mattress sets, bunk beds, and so much more. All 50% off store-wide while supplies last. No exclusions. Shop early while selection is best. Open 7 days a week east at 1026 South Oliver or west at 604 North Tyler. Wichita's favorite furniture store since 1997. Crazy J's Furniture and Sleep Shop.
The safest deal in town.
Are you looking to pave your parking lot or driveway? Call Pave the Way. They specialize in asphalt and concrete paving and repairs and have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. They can custom tailor their estimate to fit your individual needs and budget and always make their customers a priority. Call 316-990-5855 today for a fast free estimate or online at pavethewayusa.com.
Pave the way, kicking asphalt every day.
The KFH Studios, powered by Devon James Injury Lawyers. Call 888-8888. That's 888-8888.
Pro football, Monday Night Football last night. You heard the game right here on KFH. The Minnesota Vikings hosting the first place San Francisco 49ers. Vikings pull off the upset, beat the Niners 22-17. Back-to-back losses for San Francisco, back-to-back wins for the Vikings, and their first home win of the season. Starting at offensive left guard for the Vikings, former Kansas State Wildcat Dalton Reisner got his first start for the Vikings, part of a good offensive line that only allowed 1 sack on the entire night. Good win for Minnesota last night. High school boys soccer, we're into postseason regional play in Class 6A. Really good first-round game tonight at 6:30. Wichita East visiting Wichita Southeast. Both teams with a winning record. Somebody's season comes to an end tonight as we get into high school boys soccer postseason. And don't forget tonight, the weekly edition of the Chiefs Kingdom Show, talking Chiefs football, 6 o'clock this evening. That's right here on KFH. I'm Ted, the Sports Head.
You're listening to Sports Daily with Jacob and Tommy. Still to come, Jim Rome at 11, right here on KFH.
Bob and Tom Mornings. This is 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
All right. Thanks for indulging us today on the show, everybody. Congratulations to our contest winners. You've got Jim Rome after us here. Bob and Jeff take over from 2 to 4. Zach Gelb for a couple hours before the Chiefs Kingdom Show tonight at 6 o'clock. Speaking of the Chiefs, we appreciate Dan Israel for stopping by, executive producer of the Chiefs Radio Network. Tommy, enjoy the rain today.
Yeah, sounds good. Looking forward to Game 7 of the NLCS tonight. It should be a great game.
Watch out for flying spiders, everybody. For Tommy and Jad, I'm Jacob Albracht. We will see you and have a World Series matchup tomorrow.